Ovo je Jazeera Svijeta, ja sam Azra Hadžić. Iz emisije Izdvajamo. Zašto Dominikanska Republika ima izrazitu mržnju prema Haićanima? Odakle seže historija dubokog rasizma i nasilja? Koji su razlozi da se sve više Amerikanaca afričkog porijekla seli u Keniju? Novi lijek protiv HIV-a nudi velike nade za iskorjenjivanje AIDS-a, ali smanjenje američkog finansiranja dovodi sve u pitanje. Iza netaknutih plaža Dominikanske Republike krije se mračna historija nasilja i rasizma prema Haićanima. Ovo je priča o porijeklu antihaićanstva, njegovom utjecaju na društvo i trajnoj krizi ljudskih prava koja pogađa hiljade Haićana u Dominikanskoj Republici.
When people picture the Dominican Republic, they often imagine pristine beaches, all-inclusive resorts, and of course, bachata. But behind this picturesque destination lies something much more violent. For decades, the Dominican government has terrorized Haitians and people of Haitian descent. It's beaten people, deported them, and even stripped them of their birthright citizenship. And it's gotten away with it. The Dominican government claims it's simply enforcing immigration laws, but the story goes much deeper.
The racism, the discrimination in the Dominican Republic, you cannot talk about these two concepts without talk about anti-Haitian, because it's like they connect. A lot of people will say, oh no, I am not racist, but I don't want Haitian in my country.
Here's the thing, the Dominican Republic's anti-Haitianism is so notorious that in 2022, the US Embassy warned Black American travelers that they might be mistaken for Haitian migrants and wrongfully detained. See, Dominican identity has been built on anti-Haitianism and anti-Blackness all the way back to before the Dominican Republic even existed.
You know, they used to teach us when the Christopher Columbus come to the island, they give our indigenous people mirror. They take our gold. I used to say, I don't know what happened with the mirror that Christopher Columbus gave us, because we are not able to see ourselves and see we are Black.
The Dominican Republic and Haiti are actually neighboring countries on the same island. A look at the island of Hispaniola reveals a stark divide. Let's start in 1697. That's when France and Spain split the island after the 9 Years' War into San Domingue and Santo Domingo. The French side became the world's most profitable colony at the time, exporting sugar, coffee, and indigo. But those profits came at a cost. Plantation owners worked enslaved Black people to death. It was so bad that in 1791, the people enslaved in San Domingue revolted and sparked the Haitian Revolution. Meanwhile, Santo Domingo wasn't that successful of a colony for the Spanish. It was less developed, had fewer enslaved people, and a more mixed population. Things were still unfair, but not quite as brutal as next door. In 1804, San Domingue won its independence from France, becoming the first free Black republic. It renamed itself Haiti. Fast forward to 1822, Haiti, trying to protect itself from being invaded or colonized again, occupied the eastern part of the island, which had recently won independence from Spain. This is where the complicated relationship began. At first, some Dominicans were relieved at being free from European rule, but that didn't last long. During Haiti's 22-year occupation, it abolished slavery, redistributed land, broke up the Catholic Church's power, and pushed for French to replace Spanish. In response, a secret society began plotting to break away from Haiti and form an independent Dominican state. And on February 27, 1844, Santo Domingo declared independence, rebranding itself as the Dominican Republic. So you see, by 1844, you had two totally different countries sharing one island. Haiti, born from a slave revolt with a mostly Black population and French-based Creole culture, and the Dominican Republic with a more mixed population and the Spanish language, founded by a secret society largely made up of white Dominican elites. Now, the thing is, this occupation left some deep scars. For Dominicans, it became a big part of their national identity, this idea of resisting Haitian control. It fueled a lot of anti-Haitian sentiment and anti-Blackness that still influences many aspects of Dominican society today.
You know, it's been so difficult to be Haitian in the Dominican Republic. Being called Haitian is borderline offensive in the sense that people are not saying it as a term of endearment or just to identify you as that is your ethnic descent. They're saying that in a pejorative way, right?
While anti-Haitian sentiment started during the occupation, it cemented itself during the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo. Trujillo's regime, initially backed by the US, aggressively promoted a nationalist ideology known as Dominicanidad through the media and public speeches. The main goal? To create a clear distinction between Dominican and Haitian identities, often portraying Haiti as a threat to Dominican culture and values. The government rewrote Dominican history to portray Haitians as constant aggressors and a danger to the country's independence. Trujillo embedded hate against anything with African origins, not just Haitian. He promoted the idea of blanqueamiento, the whitening of the Dominican population. He even wore makeup to whiten his skin and went as far as relabeling many Dominicans of African descent Indio, which means Indian, to distance themselves from their blackness. Here's the kicker. Trujillo's grandmother was actually Haitian. Today, more than 45% of Dominicans still self-identify as Indio versus the 8% who identify as only Black. Even though it's estimated more than 70% of Dominicans have African ancestry, the trends of blanqueamiento can still be seen today.
I am Dominican. I am Dominican of Haitian descent. A lot of people, Black, Dominican, they don't understand my reality just because they believe they are not Black. If foreign people see us, we don't look different. But between us, they teach us to see us as a difference. The difference could be in the tone of how Black I look, how dark is my skin complexion, or how I dress, or how I do my hair.
See, racialization in the Dominican Republic, like the rest of Latin America, is layered and complicated.
In Latin America and the Caribbean, particularly Dominican Republic, what we have is people are racialized by their phenotype, right? So irrespective if you have even two Black parents, right, and they may be both dark-skinned, if you come out light-skinned, you can be categorized as a different racial category, where in the US, that would not be the case.
These assumptions about who's Dominican and who's Haitian wind up having major impacts on people's lives.
There are Dominicans who are dark-skinned, who are indistinguishable from any other Black person from anywhere in the world. They often get confused as Haitian, sometimes even deported in mass raid, just like any other perceived illegal person would be. Or undocumented rather.
While there's a wide range of appearances in both countries, darker skin, French-sounding last names, and even hair texture can lead to individuals being perceived as Haitian, many times with dire consequences. The Dominican Republic deported more than 250,000 Haitians in 2023. Thousands of children were separated from their families, and hundreds of pregnant women, many of whom were detained in or near hospitals, were deported back to Haiti. Yet 99% of Dominicans surveyed don't believe Haitians' human rights were violated, and it's been getting worse. The border didn't always look like this. It was once open and culturally blended, but dramatically transformed in the 1930s under the Trujillo regime. Trujillo implemented the racial profiling system we talked about earlier, targeting individuals based on their skin color or perceived Haitian ancestry. This was part of his Dominicanization of the Frontier Project, which aimed at strengthening Dominican control over the border region and reducing Haitian influence. The 1937 Parsley Massacre was part of this push. Tens of thousands of Haitians were killed for not pronouncing parsley in Spanish, perejil, correctly. It was a test designed by the Dominican government to target Haitians. Surviving Haitians were driven out and towns were rebranded with Spanish names. While Haitian labor wasn't entirely cut off, it was strictly controlled through a recruitment-based bracero program for sugar plantations. Remember that for later. Today, the Dominican government is building a wall to keep Haitians out. In recent decades, a slew of anti-Haitian immigration and denationalization laws have been passed. In 2004, Migration Law 28504 revoked birthright citizenship from the children of foreigners in transit. a term that was redefined to include migrant workers, many of whom were Haitian. In 2013, Judgment 16813 stripped away birthright citizenship for all people born to foreign parents in the Dominican Republic between 1929 and 2010. More than 200,000 people of Haitian descent were left stateless. Many had their birth certificates canceled, so they couldn't get a cédula, which is like an ID. Without a cédula, some people can't enroll in school, get a job, or even open a bank account. And in 2022, Decree 66822 set up a special police unit to go after foreign-born people living in the country without documentation. This unit mainly targets batallas, which are settlements near sugarcane fields mostly lived in by Haitian workers and their Dominican-born families.
How is it that folks can come into your house at 2 in the morning, beat you up, take your stuff, take you across the border when you have your documentation, right? And there's no redress for you. There's no medical care you can take. Folks, in fact, are dying en route to being deported because a lot of the trucks are so packed with folks.
It's important to note that over 85% of migrants in the Dominican Republic were born in Haiti. So just on paper, any immigration law is going to disproportionately affect Haitians and anyone who could be racially profiled as Haitian. While Dominican politicians often blame Haitians as a burden on the country's economy, the Dominican Republic relies heavily on cheap Haitian labor. This brings us back to the batallas. Originally created for the Haitian braceros, these hyper-police communities often lack basic amenities like running water, reliable electricity, and adequate sanitation facilities. Activists have reported that working conditions on sugar plantations, mostly staffed by Haitians, are extremely harsh with little access to healthcare, food, or living wages. Activists have even called it,
without question, this was slavery. They were forced to work from dusk till dawn under the threat of violence and/or death or imprisonment.
In fact, the US banned sugar imports from the major Dominican sugar company, Central Romana, due to signs of forced labor and other inhumane practices. Anti-Haitianism and anti-Blackness is so deeply ingrained in Dominican society that it's often ignored and defended. From sports, like in the case of Dominican baseball player Sammy Sosa using a bleaching cream to significantly whiten his skin, to the popular joke,
I know black, negro nunca, nunca, I know no.
When talking about how Dominicans view themselves. But the Dominican Republic isn't alone in its anti-Blackness. In fact, it's part of a larger epidemic across Latin America.
Nakon godina političkih prepirki, španska vlada odobrila je plan za premještanje više hiljada maloljetnih migranata bez pratnje širom države, kako bi se rasteretili kapaciteti i poboljšali uvjeti u prihvatnim centrima na Kanarskim otocima. 7 otoka koji su dio Španije, ali se nalaze uz Afričku obalu, bore se s rekordnim brojem od 47.000 migranata, koliko ih je došlo prošle godine. Bernard Smith ima izvještaj sa otoka Tenerife.
Deseci hiljada migranata bez dokumenata na Kanarskim otocima oslanjaju se na pomoć lokalnih volontera koji im najčešće osiguravaju osnovne potrepštine za život. Iako postoji velika mreža prijemnih centara, oni su pretrpani, a lokalne vlasti se teško nose s takvom situacijom. Ali sada, nakon intenzivnih političkih prepirki u Madridu, postignut je sporazum prema kojem će najmlađe migrante poslati na različite lokacije širom unutrašnjosti.
Hot potato now, it's a topic that it's on the table and different political parties are using it to throw it to each other, which is terrible considering that we're talking about human beings and we're talking about minors.
Kanarski otoci imaju kapacitet za samo 900 djece i mlađih migranata, ali trenutno je tamo njih više od 6.000.
I was already thinking that if I couldn't make it, I'm not going to be remembered. People are I'm going to die in the sea.
Ansu i Mamadou su imali 14 godina kada su se otisnuli na putovanje preko Atlantika. Obojica su stigli na otok nespreman za rekordan broj pristiglih migranata.
The living condition was bad because they put us in a tent. And the tent living situation, sometimes when it rains and it's cold, you cannot, it's really, really difficult to sleep at night. The food was bad, the quality of the food were not good.
Quand j'ai arrivé ici, on m'avait envoyé dans un autre centre. Il y avait beaucoup de personnes. Et un jour, ils ont envoyé dans un autre centre.
Lokalna vlada kaže da će im trebati godina da premjeste sve migrante u unutrašnjost.
Sufriendo una crisis clarísima de acogimiento. Es decir, no tenemos capacidad de acoger a más menores en nuestra red de recursos, porque somos limitados, encima nuestro territorio es fragmentado. A eso tenemos que añadirle.
Ilegalni dolasci migranata su ove godine smanjeni za gotovo 30% u poređenju s prošlom. Smatra se da je to rezultat pojačanih patrola na moru duž obale Zapadne Afrike koje finansira Evropa.
From next month, Spain's socialist-led minority government will start giving out work permits to some 900,000 undocumented migrants living in the country, even as other European countries get tough on immigration. Those who qualify, though, must have been here at least 2 years, so that for now rules out the most recent arrivals to the Canary Islands. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera, Tenerife.
Rastuća zajednica Afroamerikanaca seli se u Keniju. Vjeruju da je to sljedeće odredište za one koji žele pobjeći od sistemskog rasizma u SAD-u i ponovno se povezati s korijenima predaka. Mnogi Afriku, a posebno Keniju, vide kao mjesto prilika, iscijeljenja i kulturne pripadnosti. Od pokretanja kompanija do formiranja živahnih zajednica, njihova prisutnost preoblikuje dijelove Nairobija.
Trebale su godine da Anne-Marie Crawford postane američka državljanka nakon što je napustila Jamajku gdje je rođena.
I don't think we are really welcome there. Just to work and put money in their pockets.
S porodicom je u Atlanti živjela gotovo 30 godina. Sada, kada se predsjednik Trump vratio na vlast, želi otići. Kaže da su toplo dočekani ovdje u Nairobiju, gdje su došli kupiti kuću. Adila Muhamed joj pomaže da je pronađe. To je dio paketa koji nudi njena firma za usluge selidbe. Kaže da su joj klijenti uglavnom Amerikanci afričkog porijekla. Pomogla je 15-ak porodica da se presele u posljednju godinu, a očekuje ih još. Adila kaže da postoji bolji život u Keniji gdje se može više uštedjeti.
We can live comfortably without all the stress, without all the racism, without all the police brutality, without all of the heavy political climate. We don't need any of that. Our people just want to be at peace.
Adila i njen suprug ispričali su priču o svojoj migraciji na YouTube-u. I tako se povezali sa zajednicom od gotovo 200 Amerikanaca, Kanađana i Jamajčana, za koje kažu da su uglavnom migrirali ovdje posljednjih 5 godina. Marson Narcis iz Chicaga upravo je posjetio američke prijatelje koji žive u Gani i Nigeriji. Kaže da bi se radije preselio ovdje zbog dobrih cesta, bržeg interneta i ugodnije klime.
It's very moderate, the temperature. It's not too far from the beach. Which I do like.
Historija transatlantske trgovine robljem učinila je Zapadnu Afriku privlačnom nekim američkim migrantima koji traže korijene svojih predaka. Adila kaže da bilo gdje u Africi može biti dom, ali Nairobi je najbolji.
Adila and her clients say attractive apartments with gyms and swimming pools are drawing them to Kenya, but they're not only trying to escape generations of racial injustice in America, but also growing economic uncertainty.
Anne-Marie se brine da će njezin dom u Atlanti izgubiti vrijednost, pa ga želi prodati i preseliti se ovamo u roku nekoliko sedmica.
I've been even telling co-workers before I even get here, because of what I'm seeing on YouTube. I said, it's time for us to all sell and go to Kenya. Let's go.
Anne-Marie se, kaže, ovdje osjeća mirno. Želi napustiti rastuću neizvjesnost u Sjedinjenim Državama i pronaći novo mjesto koje će zvati domom.
Stotine hiljada djece iz etničke grupe Rohinje postaju izgubljena generacija, upozoravaju aktivisti. Zaglavljeni u izbjegličkim kampovima u Bangladešu nemaju pristup formalnom obrazovanju. Mnogi su traumatizirani nasiljem koje su doživjeli u Mijanmaru, a brojni moraju raditi kako bi podržali svoje porodice. Naš reporter je posjetio najveći izbjeglički kamp na svijetu, Cox's Bazar, i razgovarao s djecom tamo.
U ovoj učionici učenici izbjeglice Rohinje nadaju se da će izgraditi sretniju budućnost. Ali i tekako su svjesni koliko je teško pobjeći od sadašnjosti i prošlosti ispunjenih tugom. 16-godišnji Mohamed Sefullah želi postati ljekar, ali kako sada stoje stvari, neće dobiti priliku da studira. Dvanaestogodišnja Umaj Selma smatra da se situacija neće poboljšati za djecu Rohinje dok veći broj njih ne bude imao pristup formalnom obrazovanju, što sada nije slučaj. Ona želi inspirisati žene i djevojčice izbjeglice kroz podučavanje. Za učenice u ovom obrazovnom centru koji podržava UNICEF cilj je osnaživanje. Prije gotovo 8 godina ova djeca pobjegla su od nasilja u Mijanmaru. Ali nisu se mogli osloboditi granica jednog od najvećih izbjegličkih kampova na svijetu, gdje nemaju privatni status, gdje im je ograničena sloboda kretanja i gdje su izuzetno ranjivi. To su samo neki od razloga zbog kojih mnogi brinu da postaju izgubljena generacija.
The fact of the matter is, younger Rohingya refugees often face one hardship after another in their daily lives and simply don't get a chance to experience what childhood should be like.
9-godišnji Mohamed Džaber prodaje slatkiše pored puta. Počeo je izdržavati porodicu nakon što mu se otac razbolio prije 3 godine. Međutim, najbliži kontakt s učionicom ostvari kada drugi učenici koji dolaze s ruksacima kupuju slatkiše od njega. Kao i brojna druga djeca Rohinje, Mohamed možda želi učiti iz knjiga, no život je zapravo taj koji ga iz dana u dan uči najteže lekcije.
Pred kraj emisije ćemo do Južnoafričke Republike. Istraživači u toj državi kažu da bi novi lijek protiv HIV-a mogao radikalno usporiti njegovo širenje do 2032. godine. Iz UN-ovog programa u borbi protiv AIDS-a kažu kako lijek može ponuditi nadu za iskorjenjivanje te bolesti, ako bude dostupan onima kojima je i potreban. Lenakapavir je cjepivo koje se daje 2 puta godišnje i štiti ljude od zaraze virusom. Međutim, lijek je skup, a smanjenje američkog finansiranja utječe na njegovu distribuciju. Fahmida Miller izvještava iz Cape Towna.
Ovo je jedna od 4 mobilne klinike u blizini Cape Towna. Vodi je Fondacija za promociju zdravlja Desmond Tutu. Ovdje 24-godišnja Anatien Kotole prima lijek za prevenciju HIV-a, poznat kao PrEP.
For taking pills every day is an issue on its own. And remember, a young people, you can take pills from Monday to Friday, but when it's a weekend, you are busy, you forget the time. So that is an issue because for PrEP, you need to take pills every day.
Naučnici smatraju pomakom to što bi novi lijek sve mogao svesti na jednu injekciju, 2 puta godišnje. Lenakapavir djeluje tako što sprječava replikaciju HIV-a. Ispitivanja provedena na tinejdžerkama i mladim ženama koji su među najranjivijim grupama pokazala su da je lijek 100% efikasan. A za još jednu ženu koja posjećuje centar, ovo je obećavajuće.
I can't be comfortable with it because it's saving much time for me and I can't be coming along all the times because sometimes I go to school, sometimes I go to work, so it's very comfortable to me to take it once and then I never forget it and coming back after 6 months.
Iz fondacije tvrde kako su podizanje svijesti o mogućnostima i edukacija važni za uspjeh ovog lijeka i drugih metoda zaštite od HIV-a.
Researchers say they'll pursue the new drug despite the cost. That's after a previous clinical trial was stopped after US funding was cut earlier this year.
SAD se ranije obavezao na kupovinu ovog lijeka za države poput Južne Afrike. Zbog ukidanja sredstava, hiljade volontera iz ovog sektora ostale su bez posla. Iako su istraživači odlučni, činjenica je da lijek jeste skup.
What is important with these new products is that they need to come in at a price that the country can afford. So we're also hoping that what we see with the modeling studies, it's only possible if enough people will take the product so you can really turn the tide on HIV. So there needs to be investments from outside to get this enough product in enough people, or it needs to be that our government needs to take up that product and start paying for product, but it needs to be at a price that makes sense to our government.
Očekuje se da će ovaj lijek dobiti odobrenje Američke agencije za hranu i lijekove, a potom i južnoafričkih zdravstvenih vlasti. Prognoze ukazuju da bi lijek mogao smanjiti broj novozaraženih u Južnoafričkoj Republici za više od 40%. No to se može ostvariti samo ako postoje adekvatna financijska sredstva za distribuciju lijeka i ako ga dovoljan broj ljudi bude koristio.
Ovom pričom došli smo do kraja druženja. Sve naše emisije dostupne su vam na web stranici i YouTube kanalu Al Jazeera Balkans. Hvala vam za pažnju.